Okay, so hi everyone. So today we have two things that are going to be planned out for us to do in this video. So first off, in this first video, I'm going to be showing a game that was played by Paul Morphy, and as his opponent, we actually don't have his name, so he's just listed as no name in the database. But we're going to start by looking at this game. He's one of my favorite players, so we're going to start by looking at this game by him, and then later we'll look at a game that a player had sent in to me. He wanted me to take a look at. And for the live stream, I'll just put them together, but if you go to my YouTube, I'll actually probably split them into two videos. Okay. But anyways, okay, so let's go ahead and get started on this. Okay, so this is Paul Morphy game. He's the white pieces. His opponent is a no-name. Anyways, well, if I was playing Paul Morphy, I probably wouldn't want my name listed, because I don't think I'd do very well against him. Anyways, so I'd probably want history to forget my name as well. Okay, so basic opening so far, nothing really different. This is just even like beginners play this opening. Okay, knight to f6, so we have two knights defense. Here's where something's a little bit different. So Morphy plays d4 here. In most cases today, most players here will do knight to g5. Well, at least that's what I see, at least, and they'll do it immediately. And that way they're going for the fried liver attack, doubling up on f7. And then, black sacrifices a pawn, and we get into the, all of that. Or the other popular move is, I think, d3. That is the more positional way. Anyways, okay, now let's see here. d4. Okay, so he takes d4. And then now knight to g5. So the only difference is he plays d4 first, trying to knock out the center pawn, and also open up this bishop. So that's the only real difference. There's the only two real differences in the position, as opposed to just going for knight to g5 immediately. And here, d5, you have to block the diagonal for the bishop, because white's threatening knight to f7, forking the queen and rook. Alright. So, he takes d5. And here is a mistake. Knight takes d5. So this isn't so great because this diagonal is kind of weak. The only thing we're really protecting it is the fact that this knight's temporarily in the way of this diagonal. And that doesn't look too sturdy. Okay, so an important thing to do is king safety. So take care of your king. So Morphy goes ahead and castles. This is an important part of development, and we'll see that this becomes a problem for black, whereas white's king's very safe. Okay, so bishop to e7. And then here is the move that's going to separate white's kings from black's king. So knight takes on f7. This sacrifice, it's kind of more or less has to be accepted because it's forking the queen and rook. So he's kind of compelled to take. And now this king isn't going to be very safe, whereas Paul Morphy's king here, on g1, is going to be very safe behind these pawns in this rook. Okay. And so this king is going to be really weak for a really long time. And he sacrificed a piece for a pawn. But this king is not going to be very happy for a long time. Well, really, for the rest of the game. In this case, never happy again. Okay, so usually if you can develop pieces with tempo, that's something you should try to do. If you can develop a piece with a threat, that's a good idea, because that way you can get your pieces out while making your opponent react. So a move like, in this case, queen to f3, which is played, you're putting the king into check while adding an attacker to this pinned knight. See? Because the bishop pinning it. So, say this knight were to try to move to block the check. Yeah, the computer won't let me. Because bishop's pinning the knight to the king. Knight to f6, if that would be possible, that would be blocking the check while, getting this knight out of the problem, but can't be. Just won't happen. Okay. So the only way to hold on to the knight, by the way, like say he could retreat his king somewhere, maybe king to e6, maybe. Or, I'm sorry, not e6, king to e8. But the only way to hold the knight is to play king to e6. Because otherwise, you know, you're just going to be down a pawn because white's going to get the piece back. So the only way to keep 2 defenders is to add the king. Okay, so now knight to c3. Because this adds a 3rd attacker, whereas white only has 2 defenders. Or, whereas white has 3 attackers, black has 2 defenders. Okay, and so black decides to take. And so now white is down another piece. But if we notice, there's these 2 open files in the center now. There's no pawn either blocking this file. So this opens up the game more. And when your opponent's king is not very safe, you want to be trying to open the game as quickly as possible. Like, white's king here is very safe. So an open game in the center really doesn't affect him. But for black, if all these pieces get opened up, well then, he's going to be in a lot more trouble than he already was in a minute ago. Okay. So, he takes c3. Rook e1 check. So now this king, on these open files, he's in check. And in a lot of danger. Okay, knight to e5. So blocking the check. And now notice, here's something I find kind of funny. So white has sacrificed both knights. Right, so he's down 2 knights. And black is up 2 knights. But both of the extra knights are both pinned to the king. So they can't be used. So even though he has extra pieces, neither of those 2 extra pieces can be used. Because they're both pinned. So I find that kind of funny. I don't know, maybe nobody else does, but I think it's kind of funny. Okay, bishop to f4. When a piece is pinned, you attack it again. As Morphy has been clearly showing. All these pieces are pinned, and he keeps attacking them multiple times. Yeah, you don't really usually want to take a pin piece. Usually you just keep adding attackers and try to win it. Bishop to f6, trying to hold it. Okay, bishop takes on e5. Bishop takes e5. Okay. So, in this case, here's actually a good opportunity to go through this. Okay, so if you have all your pieces, so you should ask them, you know, at different times, how are you doing? Say, well, how are you doing, queen on f3? She says, well, I'm attacking this pinned piece a second time. I'm helping to control the center. And then you ask this bishop, how are you doing? He says, oh, well, I'm helping to attack this knight on d5. I'm pinning to the king. I'm pretty useful here. This rook on e1. He says, well, I'm pinning this bishop to the king. I'm controlling the open files. I'm even lined up with the opponent's king. I think I'm doing pretty good. And then you ask this rook in the corner on a1, how are you doing here on a1? He says, well, I'm behind this wall of pawns. I'm not really doing very much at all. He says, I think that I could be doing a little bit better. And so then you say, okay, well, we're going to help you out. And so then he sacrifices the rook on e5. So now, after the king takes, now this rook comes to e1, no longer useless in the corner. Morphy likes to use all of his pieces. And so now he gets the last one into the game that wasn't doing anything. 4 on a1, doing nothing. Now on e1, very much so active. Okay. Now, one other thing is, yes, he sacrificed a lot of material. He sacrificed the exchange, he sacrificed pieces. But one thing to keep in mind is that all of black's extra pieces are on the back row, whereas white's pieces are very active. Okay, king to d4. Bishop takes d5, rook to e8. So one thing also I'd just like to show here, go back, bishop takes e8. You can't take the bishop with the idea that the king is defending the queen, because the queen takes c3. Just want to make sure everyone sees that. Okay. Rook to e8. Okay. Queen d3. King c5, and b4 check. Okay, so the king does take on b4. But one thing I just want to show real quick. So the king really doesn't have really anywhere else to run. So, say he goes d6, well then really, I think any bishop, for the most part. Let's say, like, bishop to f3 is checkmate, discover checkmate at that, and also bishop takes b7. So, a lot of bishop moves will just lead to a checkmate. And a discover checkmate at that. Okay, so after b4, there is also the option of king to b6, which also doesn't help because you can just go queen to d4, and then let's say king e6, king to a6. You can do c5, but it kind of ends up the same way almost. Queen c4, king b6, queen c5, and then we got another checkmate. Let's go back king b4. Oh, back to b4 check, and also even say you do this same thing. Say you do c5. Well, that's gonna end up the same way. Just after this, you get the kind of. Oh wait, hold on. Where was? You get a similar. You can't go here because of the queen, but you get something very similar. You get. Let's see here. What? Bishop c4, b5, queen takes b5. Okay. Okay, but that's why king takes b4, and he's also going to get checkmated very quickly this way, because he's not doing very well here. Okay. Alright, so in the game, queen to d4. King a5, queen takes c3, king a4, queen b3, king a5, queen a3 check, king to b5, and now rook to b1, using that open file that was created with b4. Okay, and this is a really nice checkmate, because it's queen, rook, bishop, and you see how many pieces he's down. See, like, look at all of the pieces combined. I mean, I think this checkmate looks pretty cool because you get the queen cutting across this pawn, or this square. Queen's cutting across here. Where's my arrows? There we go, okay. And the bishop takes these. And we got it's a really nice checkmate. I think it looks kind of cool. Okay. And also he's down a lot of material, so I think that also looks cool that he's sacrificed quite a bit of material, and yet all the material he has is actively working against the king. Okay, so that's it for this game, this polymorphic game. Okay, so 3 things to really learn from this one is, develop your pieces, obviously, because he's got a lot more active pieces. He always did pretty much throughout the whole game. His pieces were always more active than his opponents. The other thing is king safety. So he castled his king. He got his king over to the safe square here on g1 behind a wall of pawns. And his king was never attacked at all. Whereas the black king, he was never really very safe. He never got a castle, never really got any type of safety at all. He was pretty much attacked from, like, early on in the beginning. Okay, so those are 2 very good things that you can learn from this game. Get your king to safety, and make sure all of your pieces are very active. Remember to ask them how they're doing, and make sure that they're contributing as much as possible. Okay, so I think that's good for this game. Okay, so now let's switch over. Okay, so that's it for so that's gonna be it for this game. Now let me switch over to the